about to join Don Neuen, co-host of Cowboy Logic Radio, and Denise Simon, host of the Denise Simon Experience, for a weekly situation report, or SITREP. 18 hours a day, Denise Simon lives her life as an Intel Analyst. 18 hours a day, Don Neuen lives his life in the world of rock and roll. 1 hour each day, Neuen receives a daily SITREP from Simon. Welcome to the Drive Time Situation Report. Fasten your seatbelt. You're now in Don Neuen's car, and he is calling in for his SITREP.
Hello.
Hey, Denise Simon, it's your buddy Don Neuen calling in for tonight's SITREP. And I got a carload of people with me tonight, Denise. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Drive Time Situation Report, or, as we call it, the Drive Time SITREP. On one end of this conversation, you've got the stellar Denise Simon. On the other, I pale in comparison, but you're stuck with me. I'm Don Neuen. We are going to hold a 52-minute nonstop conversation in the form of a SITREP about anything of pertinence that took place today or yesterday that Denise wants to discuss with me. I have absolutely no idea what we're going to be talking about tonight. I spent all day in the world of rock and roll, while my esteemed colleague spent all day in the world of intelligence and analyzing said intelligence. So without any further ado, Denise, do me a favor. Let's timestamp the show, and let's get after it.
It's 8:58 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the 6th of March in the year of our Lord, 2018.
Perfect. All right. Now, Denise, like I said a minute ago, I have had no time to check social media, to watch any television, to check the AP, to check Drudge. I have absolutely no idea what happened in the world today, and I have to count on you to educate me and bring me up to speed. So what's the first thing you want to enlighten me with?
Well, part of the reason it's probably not all bad, because if you go over to some place like Drudge or go over to some place like Facebook or even Fox News, you're going to find that there is a significant drop in traffic to their websites if you go to them through Facebook. Now, why would that be? Facebook uses they announced this in January and they put it in February, apparently. They announced a new algorithm that they're using, that an analytics service, if you will, by the name of BuzzSumo, like Buzzsaw, BuzzSumo. And BuzzSumo, interestingly enough, has published what they have invoked these analytics and pretty much decided that conservative media just doesn't need the kind of pushed traffic, as BuzzSumo calls it, clickbait, as some of the more liberal ones like the New York Times or CNN or Washington Post. Now, a separate organization by the name of Outline decided that they were going to take a long look at this, and I've never been a fan of Gateway Pundit, but there are some things over there that Gateway Pundit does get right. It's just kind of full of hyperbole. So I'm not a big user of Gateway Pundit. I haven't been recently a big user of Breitbart, although I am a user of Fox News only to see what they're reporting in a headline basis. I do from time to time use Washington Post, but I'm very selective. Things I get from the New York Times, and the same with CNN. When I use CNN, I generally use only foreign stuff because I think their foreign reporters are actually pretty good. But they're they're domestic people, and they're domestic issue people. It's only about Russia, so you're not missing anything. It's kind of like a soap opera. Whatever you heard 2 years ago from CNN, you're still hearing the exact same thing today.
Right.
But anyway, what is particularly interesting is Facebook uses many social media analytics, but the particular one that is, I think, affecting traffic to conservative sites and not affecting that same traffic to liberal sites, BuzzSumo, should be cause for some real concern. Now, I don't know what the standing is for Gateway Pundit, but Gateway Pundit's traffic is down substantially. And we know what Google is also doing via YouTube to Prager Universities in his videos, such that he has a significant lawsuit, of which he does call a David and Goliath lawsuit. So the point of all of that is what normally might be driven into traffic onto Facebook, where you have, Facebook pages for CNN, you have Facebook pages for Fox News and their hosts, and Facebook pages for, any of these others. I will tell you that they are affecting traffic significantly.
Is this legal?
Well, yeah, probably. Until such time that maybe some lawyers can figure out that if people have significant investments, in other words, if Gateway Pundit's only presence and revenue stream is Gateway Pundit, and that Facebook/BuzzSumo are affecting his income by virtue of some obscure analytics, then maybe they would necessarily have a case, as what Dennis Prager is saying about Prager University. But the other thing is, I did an in-depth article the other day, and then I interviewed somebody who had done some additional research. And YouTube, interestingly enough, has a trusted flagger program. Have you ever heard of that?
No. Huh.
Mm-hmm. Trusted flagger is where people or organizations can go to YouTube/Google and say, we would like to be part of your team, and we would like to tell you the things that are on YouTube that we think should not be there for various reasons. One, they could be offensive. One, they could be bullying. One, they could be a threat. One, it's fake. One, it's propaganda. One, it could be harmful to children. One, it could be inciting violence, all kinds of reasons. And so these organizations essentially apply, and then Google/YouTube goes, oh, cool. All right, well, we're going to put you through this training class first. And we don't know what that training class is made up of. We don't know how long it is. And then once they get through that training and they still decide that they want to do this, then Google/YouTube deputizes these people, these organizations. And one of them is the Southern Poverty Law Center.
Shocking.
Uh-huh. And the fascinating thing is they use the term on their own website, which I included in my article on founderscode.com. They use the word deputize, which then says, and we don't know what other organizations there are right at the moment outside of Southern Poverty Law Center, because Google/YouTube won't tell anybody. They just happen to find that one. But it now essentially says that Southern Poverty Law Center is a deputy to the Google's version of legalness, if you will, on what's posted on YouTube. It's absolutely remarkable.
I agree. It's remarkable that it's taking place at all, but I bet that it's even more remarkable that there are no conservative deputies.
I would think that would be the case. Now, I bet if you you trot on over to YouTube and you look for Al-Qaeda videos, Islamic State videos, Boko Haram videos, KKK you'll probably see some of them over there. So it's kind of like there's going to be very selective things on what Facebook and Google / YouTube say that they take down. You see what I'm saying? I mean, they're all in this together. It's kind of like they collaborate.
Why would they not be mandated by law to place that type of disclaimer for all of us to see, saying, okay, welcome to Facebook. Here's the deal. We are selectively censoring what you're able to see and what you're not able to see.
Well, I believe that's essentially what's going to perhaps be the result of Dennis Prager's lawsuit. The things that YouTube has taken down of his videos, and none of his videos, I think, are over 8 minutes. They're all concise, cogent messages, and none of them really take a political position. They're all done with subject matter experts. Some are even come from the New York Times. Some may come from some other top media outlet. Some come from think tanks. Whatever. And it was very weird of the things that they have removed from YouTube under his subscribed pages over there. So the point is, we have some significant censorship going on, and I don't see an outrage on any of this. I would also argue, because we have these ubiquitous terms of service with these social media platforms, that people get suspended and thrown in Twitter jail or Facebook jail because you violated some term of service. Well, what is it? Well, they won't tell you. And then you get these automated responses, and then you have to kind of keep going back and forth, and then people just kind of give up. And then after 90 days or whatever, you're released from jail. So then what happens? So you don't want to get put in jail again. What do you end up doing? You become self-censoring, don't you?
Right. Well, some of us do. I personally, have you ever been in jail? Facebook?
No.
Twitter?
No.
Yeah, neither have I. Neither has Donna. But we've got some good friends that are in there constantly. Rocky Stucci's in there constantly. Kaleem Stevens is in there constantly. Some of the more outspoken folks are in there. And quite frankly, many times they have no idea why they're in there.
Well, look, we've got the NRA that is working diligently to protect and defend and preserve all things Second Amendment. But we don't have an NCA, a National Censorship Association, that does it for the First Amendment. And
but we've got many organizations like the Southern Poverty Law Center that is doing everything they can to squelch free speech.
Correct. And so, I did an interview a couple of times on a case that has gone now. Actually, it was argued last week before the Supreme Court, that a case out of Minnesota, which I think was probably 7 or 8 years old now, and has finally gone to the Supreme Court, and it was argued last week. And I talked to the attorney, the chair that actually presented the oral argument. This case, by the way, is where this fellow went to the voting poll to vote in whatever kind of election, didn't matter. And the first pollster said, you got to go, you can't come in here, you can't vote, you can't wear that t-shirt. What was on the t-shirt? Don't tread on me. So then he went around, he waited a few minutes, he calmed down, he went back in, and another pollster said, no, can't do this. Well, it took several hours before this whole thing was done. Well, the third pollster allowed him to vote. But here's what happened. That pollster took down his name and address from his driver's license and reported it to the county attorney. And the county attorney calls him up and says, okay, we're going to prosecute you for being in violation of the Minnesota Voters Alliance law, whatever the hell that is. Okay, so this case has now gone before the Supreme Court. We won't know the decision until the Supreme Court renders their decisions for all their caseload, which I think is June. But this is also in the same week before this session of the Supreme Court that argued for, I'm going to forget the person's name, but the guy, I think he's from New York, who works for a company that is unionized, and he is forced to pay union dues, and then he has those people in that union, whatever it is, maybe a common one, I've long since forgotten. They don't have any say-so of where their money goes and which candidates they support. So he has a lawsuit to stop that. Again, we're back to First Amendment. We're back to free speech. Just kind of like this cat in the voting place. It's a constitutional free zone in a constitutional zone because that's where you go vote.
Yeah, I remember once you explained that case, I remember when that went down, and I had no idea that it was going to the Supreme Court. You know, quite frankly, I stopped following it after a number of years.
Well, I mean, you wouldn't have that would be logical because the case was then to advance through the court system all the way to the Supreme Court, and it was argued last week. And so I guess
I wonder how much that's costing that guy to be able to do, to be able to pursue this.
Nothing, because the law firm is the Pacific Legal Foundation, and they are everything is pro bono. Everything. They don't charge their
those
clients.
Are your buddies.
Those
your
are my
buddies
buddies.
over there.
Those are my buddies. I have them on often because there are remarkable cases that they argue. And by the way, Minnesota is not the only state that says you cannot wear any kind of clothing or attire or anything that would be deemed by a pollster that is subjective to not comply with being generic. So you couldn't go in there wearing a MAGA hat. You can't go in there wearing what would Donald Trump have said, bracelet. You can't go in. You see what I'm saying?
So I guess what you're telling me is that the next time I go vote, even though I'm voting in rural Georgia, I shouldn't wear the shirt that Sean Atkins gave me that says squashing liberalism.
You might be able to. I don't know if Georgia is, but there are 10 states that have essentially the exact same law. And I don't know if Georgia is one of them or not. The point being in all of this conversation that I'm having is we have a case where a judge has rendered the Freedom Cross, I think in Maryland, unconstitutional. It's got to come down. Now, that will be challenged again. But if it continues and that ruling stands, then there is a threat that every cross across the United States, including, I might add, Arlington National Cemetery, is in risk of being removed.
Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know about you, but the thought of that terrifies me. And I expect that kind of crap out of a state like Maryland. But
we are in such dangerous times. We are in such dangerous. Now, this cross, by the way, I think it's called the Freedom Cross. It was put up with private money I don't know all the specifics if it's sitting on public land or not, but it's been sitting there 90 plus years. 90 plus years.
Liberals don't care. They're seizing the moment.
But this is my whole point. What the hell are we doing out here allowing this? We should be protesting. We should be we should be impeaching that judge that made that decision. We should all be protesting Facebook, Google, YouTube. You see what I'm saying? What we have now, there are no religious rights anymore for the most part. There's no free speech anymore. You have to have a permit to do these things. Why do we have to ask the government for permission and then pay for the permit and hopefully they'll approve us?
Well, the same reason down there in Florida that you have to get permits to cut your grass or
cut my dead tree.
Yeah. See, up here in Georgia, where I live, we just keep shooting the dead tree until it falls down.
We have a very big problem with
You didn't even respond. You didn't even respond to that. That was funny.
I can't do that. I'm in a city limit.
I'm not.
I know that.
So you were supposed to laugh along.
Okay. Ha ha.
Oh, man, that was weak. Ladies and gentlemen, let me break away from this uncomfortable Denise Simon moment and welcome you guys to the Drive Time SITREP. You've got on one end of this Denise Simon. My name on the other end is Don Neuen. Both Denise and I have our own radio shows that are broadcast weekly. Thursday nights, you can listen to Denise's show, The Denise Simon Experience. It is an interview-based show. She has anywhere from 2 to 4 interesting subject matter experts on every week. And her show airs for the first time Thursday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern. The show that I've got is Cowboy Logic Radio. I host it with my wife, Donna Fiducia, and we broadcast our shows Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, and we usually have anywhere from 2 to 3 guests that join us as well. So each week is a different flavor. It's a different topic because both Denise's show and our show, we choose subject matter interesting people based on whatever the heck we want to talk about. Isn't that fair to say, Denise?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we do that because we don't take any advertising dollars, so we're not obligated to do much of anything outside of that, which the three of us would like to do on a weekly basis. Kind of like this show, Denise. So, all right, what else can we talk about? Because you've really put me on a downer so far tonight.
I'm going to make it worse.
Lovely. You are good for that, though.
Well, I mean, look, I do the work here, you know, and the things that I find out, just like what we found out with Facebook and YouTube and Google. Okay, let's talk about CFIUS. You know, the Committee on Foreign Investments, and the only reason we happen to know that
a lot of people died from that many years ago. I think Napoleon died from it, didn't he?
Yeah, right.
All right, back to you, Denise. Let's get serious. Put on the game face.
The only reason we know about CFIUS is because of uranium-1, correct?
That's what you've told me.
Okay. Well, last month, our little whistleblower with uranium-1, Mr. Campbell, he gave
Hold on, Denise. Hold on. Give a 1-minute synopsis of CFIUS.
Well, I'm not going to do that yet.
Why not?
Because I want to explain some things that will set the table for CFIUS.
Okay, but they are accountable to no one, correct?
Well, that's not true.
I thought that's what their situation was.
No.
Okay.
Okay.
All right,
CFIUS.
Okay, go ahead.
CFIUS it came to light because of uranium-1, because Mr. Campbell, who was the FBI whistleblower on Uranium-1 and APCO and the Russians and all of that kind of thing. That's the only reason we necessarily know whatever it is that we think we know about CFIUS. But CFIUS is a committee, and the committee is made up of the heads of several of our government agencies, but it's really under the management / purview of the Treasury Department. Now, when a foreign entity, a foreign government, or a foreign company wants to come into the United States and buy something, they make an application to this committee, and then it goes through a 30-day review. And then, if there's some things in there that might be a little head scratching or eyebrow raising, then CFIUS committees works to figure out what those issues are, how to mitigate them, make suggestions, and ensure that the transaction can happen. To ensure that the transaction can happen. So they work to make sure that a foreign entity can do what the foreign entity wants to do. You see where I'm going with that?
I do indeed.
Now, here's the kicker. If a foreign government or a foreign company wants to come into the United States and they want to purchase something, they don't even have to apply. Going to CFIUS is optional.
Why are they there?
Right.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to specific things where that actually has gone through CFIUS, and there are some things that necessarily may not be able to be worked out, then it has to go to the president. And only one time did Obama, during his term, block a purchase because a Chinese company was about to acquire and build wind turbines close to a Navy military site in Oregon. And due to national security concerns, Obama said no. But the company, otherwise known as RALS, R-A-L-L-S Corporation, decided they were going to sue in court. Now, whether that happened or not, I don't know. So, in the case of Uranium-1, because of its national security implications, and it clearly had them, and some of these security implications could be vulnerabilities, cyber sabotage, exploitation, critical infrastructure, energy production, affect the financial system, sensitive government information, classified material, anything that was related to a government employee, weapons, munitions, aerospace, satellite, radar systems. You see where I'm going? They would work to mitigate those. If they couldn't mitigate and they decided that they could take the risk anyway, they would hand it on up to the White House and have it signed off. So when Mr. Campbell, the FBI informant / Uranium-1 whistleblower, said that Obama signed off on it, he very surely did sign off on the Uranium-1 deal.
Okay. And when did you learn that?
A couple of weeks ago, to be honest with you. I had submitted it to another site for publication, and I think it kind of got lost, so I decided I was just going to revisit it today and put it on my own site.
All right, so what is that? What does this mean? What are the nuts and bolts and the end result here of Obama, without a doubt, approving Uranium-1?
Well, it really tells us that whether he got it to approve it or not, he's not the only one that is complicit, because CFIUS is supposed to provide an annual report to Congress. An annual report to Congress, which is designated in the Defense Production Act of 1950, and that was amended in 2007 under Section 721M. So there are people in Congress that knew about Uranium-1 also.
All right. Do me a favor, and we talked about this maybe 2 months ago when we had a CFIUS discussion. Name the individuals or some of the individuals to give any new listeners that we've got an idea of who was sitting on this CFIUS panel, let's just say from maybe 2010 to 2016. Just a few names to put this thing into perspective.
Well, I mean, you would probably have to go back to Timothy Geithner, who was head of Treasury at the time, right? You would have to go back to Eric Holder. You would have to go back to Hillary Clinton. You would have to go back to Janet Napolitano. You would have to go back to Lisa Jackson at EPA. I'm trying to think of who else.
And in later years, John Kerry.
Yeah, but the transaction had already been done.
Right. But these people in 15 and 16, Kerry and Lynch, were sitting on this panel, correct?
Yeah. And you don't have when something comes before the CFIUS panel, it is very unlikely the heads of those agencies themselves would even show up. They'd send a staffer.
Right, I remember you saying that.
Because they just don't care.
Now, if something as serious as uranium-1 was slid onto Obama's desk and he rubber-stamped that and sent it on through with an approval, do you have any idea of any other serious transactions that would have taken place through CFIUS and Obama?
I do.
And what might those be, Denise?
Well, it seems that we have one that's getting some attention now. And this one...
Hold on. Before you go into that, that almost sounded like I set you up for this. And I want to make sure that the listeners know that this is a drive time situation report. None of this is scripted. Denise, you had no idea I was going to ask you that question, right?
I did not, but I would have gone there anyway.
I know, but the point is, you and I have done this on a very regular basis now for probably 5 years, and we are giving the listener a very authentic, recorded SITREP that you and I do multiple times a week. And I just wanted for full disclosure, you didn't know I was going to ask you that question, and you came right back with the right answer because I was hoping you had that. So I'll be quiet and you can tell us all the other nefarious things that took place.
As of about, I don't know, a year or so ago, we have another Chinese problem, and I would say that what the Chinese are doing is actually worse than what the Russians are doing because we're allowing the Chinese to do this. But China has a company called Fasten International, and Fasten International paid $1.84 billion for the remaining 80% stake of U.S. property in a casualty insurer by the name of Ironshore Incorporated. Now, why would we care about that? Well, it seems that Ironshore's Right and Company, this is a terrifying thing, is the provider of professional liability coverage to U.S. government employees such as law enforcement personnel, national security officials, and the Central Intelligence Agency. And we're allowing a Chinese company to buy the insurance liability company that covers those people, those agencies.
Now, did this end up getting to Obama's desk?
Don't know all that yet. But it seems that in this particular case, they did not go through CFIUS, and when the initial part of the transaction happened, they only bought 20%. But
well, wait a minute. Is that because it's optional?
Yeah.
Okay. Want to make sure that we're connecting all the dots.
And so then when they decided they were going to buy the rest of it, it was suggested that they go through CFIUS. Now, whether that happened or not, we don't necessarily know. Why? Because the Treasury Department is the gatekeeper and they very rarely tell anything. Now, the other fascinating thing is it goes both ways. CFIUS has been known to look at companies and then peddle them to international companies or governments.
So they're brokers.
In 2010, hold on here.
They're brokering our companies and our national security.
They
right?
did under Obama.
Okay.
In 2010, CFIUS contacted the Russian internet company, otherwise known as C-Mail, the letter C-Mail.ru, and AOL, to help $188 million divestment of messaging service ICQ, which was part of AOL. Yeah.
And we're looking at Sam Nunberg.
Don't you see how there are some things I completely just walk over and just keep going. Sam Nunberg is nothing to me. Nothing. You mean?
No, you used a more colorful term earlier
I did.
that we can use on the radio. Go ahead. What is Sam Nunberg to you?
Mice nuts.
And ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that have never seen mice nuts, they are rather inconsequential and small, correct, Denise?
Yeah. Microscopically small.
Yeah. All right, so that's Sam. You smell like you've had alcohol. You've drank.
Yeah.
You've had some alcohol. Nunberg.
Then we have a U.S. electronics distributor by the name of Ingram Micro Incorporated that said they would actually, they'll go ahead and they'll apply for CFIUS approval because it wanted to buy a Chinese shipping company. But then they said they really didn't need to because the transaction was kind of going the other way, that somebody's going to buy a Chinese company. Well, you didn't really have to do that. But you see, we have a problem here. We have a problem that we don't even have a sense of what is going on. Now, CFIUS is actually supposed to be cracking down on things because now we have another fellow that is working as a deputy assistant treasury secretary for the investment security side, and he comes from the Defense Security Service, which is part of the Defense Department. Whether he's still there or not, I don't know. But he's supposed to be cracking down on things that have could go sideways when it comes to national security concerns like aerospace or semiconductors or IT, agriculture, biomedical science, and electronics. The point is, we have such a global. We want to talk about nationalism. There is no nationalism. It's gone. It's gone forever. We are a borderless world. I don't care what anybody says.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that feel-good moment was brought to you by Denise Simon, co-host of the Drive Time SITREP, which you're listening to. My name's Don Neuen. Once a week, Denise and I record a conversation that she and I have multiple times a week during my drive home. It's late night. Right now it's 9:36 p.m., and I've had a long day at work. I have no idea what's going on in the news, and in order for myself to appear to you people to be more intelligent, I call Denise Simon every night. And Denise, after spending all day dealing with these massive volumes of negativity, finds it in her heart to devote 30 to 45 to an hour with me on my drive home so that she too can say, hey, the reason Don Neuen sometimes appears to be rather intelligent is because of Denise Simon. Now, having said all that, I think it's important that all of you valued and adored listeners of ours jot down Denise's website. And when I'm done talking, I'm going to have her give it out, because her fidelity during the drive time sit rep is much better than mine, because I'm talking to you on my cell phone. But there's a website that she's got, and I'll just say it and then she'll explain it to you, founderscode.com. If you go to that website, there's a little box that you can put your email address in. And if you put your email address in it and click send or submit or sign me up or whatever it says, you too will get the information on a daily basis that you need so that you can appear more intelligent than you actually are. You can join me in that neat experience, because it really is a great experience, Denise, for you to help me appear to be more intelligent than I actually am. I amaze many people, because much of what you help me with, I use on social media. I use in Cowboy Logic episodes. I used it at the South Carolina Tea Party Coalition Convention and was astounding people with my brilliance that I credited you with. So, ladies and gentlemen, look, the bottom line is this. If you want to be able to engage in social media, if you want to be able to engage in conversation with other like-minded individuals or those that have differing views, a very, very high-grade bullet that you can put into your gun is one Denise Simon. And Denise, give them your website if you don't mind, so that they can understand what's being said.
My website is founderscode.com. It's founders with an S, founderscode.com.
Now, do the listeners another favor. Give out whatever email you would prefer to give out over the airwaves. And if anybody's got any questions about anything, I'm not going to put any limit on it. Feel free to email Denise Simon. If you've got something, if you have a topic that you feel that Denise needs to research and write about, like she doesn't already have enough to do, feel free to do that. Send that to her. Okay? What's the email, Denise? What should they use?
Well, they can do founderscode@gmail.com.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. I've just given you 2 bullets for your gun. And I would stress to you that you use those. I do, and I have now for probably going on 6+ years. Denise Simon is inappropriately generous with her time. And she is one of the very few people, and there are others that we know. Denise, if you want to name them when I'm done talking, you can. But she's one of the very few people that I know that when you use her research, use her information, use her articles, that you can do so with complete integrity. And I'm not trying, Denise, to turn this show into a blow smoke up Denise Simon's skirt moment. But the bottom line is this. A lot of what we're talking about during these sit reps has to do with misinformation, unvetted material, trolls from Russia that are inundating social media with fake news, along with our mainstream media that's doing exactly the same thing. And this is what causes chaos. And if you can sift through all the nonsense and get right down to the bone marrow, then you're firing on all cylinders, and that's exactly what someone like Denise Simon can do for you. Who are some other folks that you suggest, Denise, that our listeners follow and research and utilize?
Well, I think, Claire Lopez and Frank Gaffney do remarkable work. I think that, there's some people over there at Heritage Foundation that do some remarkable work, mostly because they have congressional liaisons, congressional people that are assigned to go get the facts and go get the documents and go see where things are in the process. Those things are very, very important to me. People say, well, this bill just passed. Well, no, it didn't. They just said, okay, well, in Florida, you just passed all this legislation on this gun control stuff. But no, we didn't. It passed the Senate. It has not gone to the House yet. And in that, I might add, Florida did not ban the AR-15.
Yeah. What about our buddy Trevor Loudon, Tom Del Beccaro?
Well, Trevor,
folks like that.
Trevor's remarkable because he goes into the libraries and he will pull out, the books, the speeches, the pictures, the time, the events, the attendees who sponsored them. So regardless of what he is, he's a commie hunter, and he will find all those people, and he'll be doing it for the rest of his life because they are force multiplying right before our eyes. But
absolutely, that's an endless career.
It is
Job
an endless
security.
Yeah. So he does amazing work. He and his wife Victoria have an awful lot of regard for the things that they are doing, and then they put it into documentary film form. And sadly, we can't really have things that are longer than an hour or so because people's eyes start to glaze over. But I hate to think what he has found that he's been forced to cut out just from a time standpoint.
Yeah, but the nice thing about it is he has come up with some short feature films after
Correct.
his full length film that he did, The Enemies Within. But he's got 3 or 4 of them that he's done since then.
He's
are
come out with one about how the communists, the socialists, the Marxists, and external forces are destroying religion in the United States.
Lovely. All right, we got about 3 minutes, Denise. Can you give me a 3-minute Mueller update? And give me some good news. I'm getting sick of this other crap.
Well, the other part of the good news necessarily isn't really with Mueller, except that you have Bob Goodlatte and Trey Gowdy and a handful of others that are actually calling for a second special counsel, somebody that would do very similar work to what Mueller is doing, but they would be doing it on FBI, all things Hillary, James Comey and that crowd. And that comes down... I
think Devin Nunes was talking about that this week.
Correct. And so that crowd has signed a letter. I think there were 14 signatures to that letter. I don't know if that's the right number or not, but it's probably close. That went over to Jeff Sessions. It's not asking, essentially demanding a second special counsel. The other piece is the Inspector General Michael Horowitz is supposed to be finished with his report by the end of this month. It is said that he has reviewed with his staff about 1 million pages. Now, what he's going to come back with, we have no idea. But a lot of people are putting high faith in his work. I'm going to put a caveat to that and say that he was part of the Inspector General operation and investigation into Cheryl Atkinson's computer that was submitted and
replaced.
her hard drive, she sent the Apple machine over, and when she got the Apple machine back, it had a different hard drive in it, and the that's done by serial number. That serial number does not match the serial number that came with the invoice when the original Apple computer or Apple machine was delivered to her.
And who replaced that hard drive?
We don't know. We don't know. We don't know who actually it ended up in the hands of for that investigation. She does not know that either, but she does know that the hard drive was replaced or switched out.
Yep.
So
Yep.
she's a
I
little.
like her a lot. Do you like her?
I do, and she's a little suspect of Mr. Horowitz, and I would say rightly so.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, 52 minutes goes by fast when Denise Simon is pumping you full of intelligence, don't you think? Hey, we want to reach out and thank a few people for having the faith and believing in us, and that is our digital flagship network, Talk America Radio. You can find all kinds of fascinating things, along with a bunch of other great shows, if you'll go to talkamericaradio.us. We also want to extend our gratitude to our terrestrial, our AM/FM affiliates, WDDQ Talk 92.1 FM serving South Georgia, WJHC 107.5 FM that serves North Florida, and WLBB 1330 AM, and now the powerhouse 106.3 FM that serves West Georgia and East Alabama. We do this, ladies and gentlemen, every week for you. As you've listened through this show, you did not hear a single second of advertising. That means that Denise and I make zero money when we do this show. And we don't ever want to make money doing this show. Well, I'm speaking for myself. Denise may want to get paid someday. But we're not going to have advertisers on this show. We do this for you. So in turn, we'd like to ask that you do two things. Tell your friends and family about this show. Post about it in social media. And also, if you have a radio station in your hometown that you feel this show, the Denise Simon Experience, Cowboy Logic Radio, Real Talk with Audrey Russo, Behind Enemy Lines with Gene Baradelli, Black Man Thinking with Stan Levy, The Conservative Cartel with Matt Locke and Chris X, and our good buddy Matt Bruce with the Captain's America Third Watch. If you think that those shows would be advantageous to have on your local radio station, give them a call and tell them about it. Tell them about us and send them over to talkamericaradio.us. We need you as our army. But again, thank you for believing in us. Denise, take us home. We got to go.
Gotta go. God bless America. Thanks for being with us.